The story topping our news this morning is, of course, the runoff election that will be determined today in Georgia. Here to break it down for us is local political analyst Ivy Cargile. Good morning, Ivy.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us today. Could you just start off with explaining to us how exactly does today's elections work?
Well, today's election works like any other election. It's going to be a winner take all. So whoever gets the most amount of votes is going to win the Senate seat. But the reason why we're here today is because the state of Georgia has what we call a nonpartisan primary, which means that in November there were two Senate seats that came of the two Senate seats for the state became available or became open, and so a number of more than two people ran for each seat, because what Georgia has is the nonpartisan primary is also called a jungle primary. So there were more than 20 people who were running for one of the seats. And so what that resulted in is, according to Georgia state law, for anyone to win the seat, they have to win more than 50% of the vote. However, when you have more than two people running for any given seat, the chances of that happening are greatly reduced. And so that's why we have a situation where the November 2020 election in Georgia was actually more of a primary for these two Senate seats. And so the runoff is today. And so today, like I said, it's like any other election where whichever candidate gets the most amount of votes, that's the candidate that wins the seat.
Okay, and why is this election important? Why does it matter to people, whether they're in Georgia or maybe here in Kern County?
Well, I think this has more to do with a political party politics. And so if the election is important because we're waiting to see who is going to have the majority in the Senate. If both Reverend Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff win, who are both Democrats, then that means that the Senate becomes 50% Democrat, 50% Republican. And so per the Constitution, that means then that for many of the votes, there could be a tie break, a tie that needs to be broken. And so because the Vice President-elect Kamala Harris is the president of the Senate and is a Democrat, that means that the Democrats would have a slight majority with a 51-50 vote in the U.S. Senate. And so then that means that both the Senate and that means then that the Senate might be a slightly Biden-friendly Senate as opposed to being a Republican Senate.
Okay, and does that leaked phone call from President Donald Trump, you and I briefly talked about that during our commercial break. What are your thoughts on that phone call and how it could kind of impact today?
So I think it could have an effect for your independent voters as well as your apathetic voters. We also apathetic Democrat voters, and then we also have to remember that not all Republicans are Trump supporters, and so for these three groups, the phone call could ignite anger because of the fact that it's just so unprecedented and it's so anti-democratic, right? The fact that he was asking for votes that aren't there for him. And so I think that, these three people from these three different groups could get mobilized just because they would become so angry that he would do something like that. So it's interesting that, the United States judges a lot of other countries for this kind of behavior. And now we're in that boat. And so I think that some folks might actually, that anger and that frustration with Trump could actually mobilize them to show up to the polls today. So we'll have to wait and see if this works in favor or against the Republicans and Donald Trump. So it could have, I think it will have an effect. It's just a matter of seeing what kind of effect, if it's actually going to mobilize folks to go to the polls on behalf of the Democrats.
All right, well, we'll have to see how that all goes. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ivy. You had really great insight. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.